Hello and welcome back to DXB today, where we're taking a deep dive into the world of agriculture. Joining us now in the studio is Faraz Sufi, who is the General Manager of Emirates Crop One Bostanica. Welcome so much for joining us in the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about Emirates Crop One and Bostanica?
So Bostanica is part of Emirates Flight Catering. They are the most of the shareholders, and we've created the world's largest vertical farm, which is Bostanica, located over here in Dubai. We're so proud of the project. It's one innovative, the most cutting-edge technology. It's a state-of-art facility that we're proud of.
Incredible.
So if someone doesn't know what vertical farming is, how different is it from regular farming, if you can tell us?
That's a great question. So vertical farming, we go vertical. So we built to start planting and growing vertically versus the conventional farming, which goes horizontally. So that's one part of it. Besides, we are a controlled environment agriculture. So we're not governed by the climate. We can control our environment when it comes to growing the cultivars that would like to grow. When it comes to temperature, humidity, lighting, day and night, nutrients, water. Besides, we're 100% soil-less facility, so we're soil-free. We grow hydroponically, which is, makes the products more safer to the audience.
I'm just curious, because you occupy less land, right? Everything's vertical. Does that limit the kind of produce that you can produce?
So to put it in a way, growing vertically, you can grow anything. Okay. But it depends, there are different aspects of any business. It depends on how viable it is. Then you have to change a little bit of the structure inside those vertical farmings, like in terms, let's say leafy greens, they grow in maybe 20 centimeter in length, whereas if you want to grow trees, you would require probably 20 meters, So it depends on what you want to grow, but eventually you can grow anything.
And what is it that you're specializing in growing? Everything, or
so at the moment we grow different type of leafy greens, like different type of lettuces, kale, spinach, parsley, different type of herbs, microgreens, edible flowers, and we tried strawberries for 3 months, where it was a very successful story for us. And we keep looking into different R&D, different cultivars as well.
Incredible. So what does your company have in involvements in terms of COP28? Because this is what we're talking about a lot at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of sustainability, we utilize the space. So in a footprint, we're 10,000 square meter facility over 3 floors, which makes it 30,000 square meter in growing area, a bit less than that, 29. And then we save 95% on water. So if you look at it, when you have limited arable lands and the scarcity of water as well in this region, where we all rely on desalinated water, so it's a great saving in the end, make us save 250 million liters of water by the end of the year, which is equivalent of generating 1,000 megawatt of electricity. So it's a huge saving. So it's the land, it's the water, the number of people that you would require for you to harvest 3 tons a day, as we do at Bostanica. So all of the above, it ticks all the boxes in our checklist, honestly.
Incredible. So you mentioned you are soil-less, and today is the soil day. My question for you is, maybe for the audience, just to explain, in terms of the nutritional value of the produce you are producing in a vertical farming, compared to, let's say, the leafy greens in a soil, in terms of quality, is there any difference, or is the same in terms of nutritional value for the consumer?
That's great as well. Thank you for asking me this. So in terms of vertical farming and what to do at Bostanica, knowing that we're soil-less facility, so that means we're hydroponic, we grow on water. That makes us 100% safe. And we're the only one, I believe, in the region that has the ready-to-eat. So when we harvest, it's directly ready to eat, which give us, and those green leafy greens, the added advantage over others, like when you say in freshness, zero pathogen free, zero chemical, zero pesticide. So all of these makes us really ready to eat product with 100%, let's say, full of nutrition product, because we know when to harvest. And this comes all through R&D that we have. It's over a decade of R&D with our joint ventures as well.
Incredible.
I just want to know how feasible it is for countries, because it's a controlled environment and you don't use a lot of chemicals. So do you see a high demand for vertical farming at the moment, or maybe in the near future as well?
I believe there would be always a demand. Looking at the population of a bit over 8 billion, expected to be 10 billion by 2050. That means within the next 26 years. We can't keep losing those arable lands. Fresh water will be always difficult to get access to. So converting this into vertical farming, we believe that this is really the future of agriculture in any region. So I believe yes, the answer to that.
I've got to say, so we were just having a little like giggle there because when we were looking at that Mustanico, you said like don't wash the vegetables after you've purchased them, and we said we've got to wash our spinach and our lettuce. What is the reason that you recommend not doing that?
So we urge our consumers when they find us on retail under the name of Bustanica not to wash, because you will contaminate them with your tap water at home.
True.
So we honestly speaking, because we're a 100% control environment, so what we do is we mimic what happens in the nature in terms of growing, getting the roots out, germination, and then growing those leafy greens, wonderful leafy greens. And because we're like soilless facility, so soil always has the biggest impact on anything we grow. They have like the pathogen, they have the contamination, foreign objects from them. So doing them hydroponically, we just harvest, pack, and they're ready to eat. So even we urge our customers honestly not to wash their produce. And this, we're proud to do this. Like we're the only one in the region that having this across retailer today, Horeca, wholesalers, and even aviation, Emirates Flight Catering. We supply them, and in return they supply on the back of that over 130 airlines that comes out of Dubai Airport today.
Firas, this is an interesting conversation and I want to keep going, and I'm sure Shamal has a lot of questions as well. However, we are running out of time, so thank you so much for enlightening us about vertical farming.
Thank you so much for having me. We're glad here to be on the COP28, celebrating this great event. We've been working and waiting for it so far, and thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Who would have thought we'd have such interesting conversations on a soil episode? Now, there has been so much happening also at COP28. So we went to take a look at the Living Soils Workshop at the Expo City Farm to understand the sustainable management of soils and the impacts of agricultural practices. Here, take a look.
Hi, my name is Rima and I'm curator of the Emirates Soil Museum. Today we're running the and we language practices of soil. Pleasantly surprised to being such a fragile teaspoon of years for 5 forming factors. We were so happy.
Incredible insight there into the Living Soils Workshop at COP28. But now it is time for the roundup, Louise. So what do you have for us?
Well, Amy, our guests are going to have an interesting say on this for sure. UAE sets out a plan to achieve 50% food waste, and this is going to be cut by 2030. Mariam Al-Maheri, Minister of Climate Change and Environment, has set out the UAE's plan to eliminate food waste. And this plan will focus on changing attitudes towards food loss, as well as developing more sustainable practices. So, having said that, I know that both of you deal with food and produce. What do you think about food waste here in the UAE?
So food waste is not only in the it's a problem or an issue that we should solve internationally. So it starts, yes, I understand, with the manufacturer, whether if it is food processing, agriculture, or whatever. But again, we need the consumer behavior to be changed a bit. So when you look at the hotels and the buffets and the consumer, even at home, and how they consume the food, this creates really an issue. And we have like 30% of our food production goes into waste, which creates a lot of issues around carbon dioxide around. So yeah, it's a great thing to discover. So when it comes to us, like in agriculture, we try to close all the loops. So what we did is the water saving and utilization of space will help us again to reduce the carbon dioxide around it. Plus, we try to close the loop. When getting those harvests, we do different cycles. So that's in a controlled environment, like from the same seed, we can harvest up to 3 times, and some cultivars up to 5 or 7 times. Yeah. So imagine how much saving we have. Plus, by the end of each cycle, we end up with those roots and stems that we're trying now to press those stems soon into different type of juices, and then use those roots in order to do some fertilizers that can be used in conventional farming next.
Definitely, because I mean, I think really like the UAE has come on leaps and bounds when it comes to recyclability? What's the word that I want to use? But you know what I mean? But when it comes to perishables, I don't think we're there yet when it comes to like composting, for example, and ideas like this. Do you have any ideas on that,
Yes,
Shamal?
so I think when you look at the food waste, there is a food waste and loss. So it's a two component. The loss is happening in the supply chain. So from the farming into the retailers to the consumer. So these are the areas where we have more control and we can change and we can fix some of the inefficiency. For example, having a better way of harvesting your crop, storage, pre-cooling is very important to keep the quality, having a system where you can don't expose the fresh produce into the high temperature. So that's why we at Silal, we invested in the largest automated pack house in a region. So we're trying to collect the fresh produce from farmers closer to the farm. So we're reducing all the sort of issues around there. When it comes to compost, that's an interesting one. In our pack house, we actually building a compost facility. So any food waste, which is not really meeting the standard and is not eatable, it goes to the compost with any other organic waste we have on the farm. It will be composted and will applied as a compost back into the soil. So we kind of closing the nutrition that not going out somewhere waste. But I think there is an important part, which is the consumer behavior. That's every one of us. So we need to buy as much as we consume, and even if we are having an extra, there are different ways you can utilize that food, because I think we as a country, we cannot afford food waste because we have a very limited resources here. So any crop or any food we are producing require a lot of energy, resource, and investment. So that's why I think it is crucially for us important. And that's why Her Excellency's initiative Ni'ma is very important, and we are working with them very closely in terms of education, raising awareness, but also trying to find different ways where we can cut the food waste and the food loss. And also obviously the retailers has a huge role to play as well, because we all know there are different categories within the retailers, so they need to be a little bit more flexible, because sometimes you buy a cucumber which is not really in a nice shape and size, but in terms of nutrition it's absolutely fine. So we as a consumer, we don't have to just
the ugly fruits and vegetables.
Exactly. Ugly food should be a good thing rather than a bad thing. So there are multiple ways we can reduce the food waste. But it's as you mentioned, it's a global issue, but it requires everyone to work together in order to minimize this.
Honestly, I think my dad could single-handedly solve food waste, because I was brought up that you did not leave the table till you left everything on the plate, every single thing. So true. If the UAE want to hire Ian Kitchingman to come and handle everything, he's very good at that.
I thought that's only in our culture. I'm glad to hear that. Yes.
Well, that was very insightful. Thank you so much, Firas, for joining us on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And now coming up, we discuss sustainability in food production and soil health with the CEO of Switch Foods. Plus, we've got a violinist right here in the studio, so don't go anywhere.